Hey, and welcome to the Engage PodBLAST, real talk in bold, bite-sized episodes. I'm Debbie Potgieter, and in each couch-style conversation, we sit down with local thought leaders to unpack the stuff that shapes how we think, lead, and live. No fluff, just relatable insights in under 15 minutes. Because around here, we believe in one thing: we make every interaction count. Let's be honest, the word budget makes you want to run for the hills. This is Engage PodBLAST. I'm Debbie Potgieter, and today we have Wendy Selebi back again, looking absolutely beautiful, and she's going to talk to us about all things budget. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I had fun the last time, and here am I again. Thank you, Debbie.
I'm hoping that you can help us demystify the budget and all the things about it, and rather talk about it as a tool to freedom and not something to fear. So if you would tell our listeners what a budget is in the simplest form, how would you go about that?
So I would say that a budget is a plan that helps you to manage your limited resources versus your unlimited needs. We have so many needs, but limited resources. And if we could use that as a tool that just helps us to structure how we're going to spend the little that we have and maximize on it, then it would make so much sense. But I think the second thing is that I love using the analogy of building a home. You know, every building, a house that is built, the foundations are critical. And that is why you'll see that the builders will spend months on the foundations, because if your foundations are strong, the type of building that you are going to build will withstand any storm that comes. The budget is that foundation. So if you don't get your budgeting right, the storms of life will come and destroy everything that you've built. So the budget is the most important in your financial journey.
And so if we don't have a budget, now is the time to get one. What would one look like, Wendy?
Simply done. I'm old-fashioned. I belong to the baby boomers. So baby boomers believe in writing things down. I take a pen and a book, and I divide the page into two. On the left, my income. On the right, my expenses. Believe you me, Debbie, as you keep writing, what you're writing begins to talk to you, to say, girl, watch out, you're skating on thin ice. You've already exceeded what your income is. And what it does, it forces you to revisit and then, write again and reduce where you need to reduce. And that just helps you to plan better and spend better. And actually, I think we need to change the name from budget to spending plan, because then it might just make people more relaxed, because the word budget makes people, as you've said, want to run to the hills.
I love that. So we're going to talk about the spending plan from here on out. In our spending plan, we obviously have our income. And for many people, it is more than one income, because we've realized in our life here that we have to hustle and do more than just one thing. Because, like you said, we have all these unlimited needs, or we may be taking care of families, whatever the case is. So we may be working more than one job. On the other side, we may also be overspending. How do we make sure we balance these two? When do you feel that it's a good time that we've said we've got a budget that works and we're sticking to it?
For me, Debbie, I think what is critical is that when you have written the spending plan, you need to stick to it. And you also need to monitor, because it's one thing to write something on paper or use the apps that are there and not go back and monitor whether you are following through. So I would say the second week of the month, go back and see whether you are still in alignment with what you had planned to do. Because then that helps you to, go back and say, I'm overextending here. I'm spending more than what I had intended, and I'm spending on takeaways, and I'm spending on this. Let me cut back. So I think that's what is critical. And even at the end of the month, go back, take what you had written versus what you have spent and see where your gaps are. When you go into the new month, you are aware that, I've been making mistakes in this area. When there's a sale, you get tempted to buy things that were not on your spending plan. So those are the things that make you aware. And one of the big things, Debbie, that we spoke about before we came on air is that weekly we go and top up. Now, when we do our spending plan, you'll put an amount for your groceries. But we forget that on a weekly basis, we go and buy veggies, we go and buy fruit, and etc. And with the high cost of living, that is a huge chunk. So we need to be mindful about that and add it onto our budget. And as you go through your spending plan, that's what they call now mindfulness, being very intentional.
Yes, being aware and holding yourself accountable, because when you write it down, like you said, those words speak back to you and they stare at you. You can't erase it. It is what it is. So your spending plan should be your buddy. It should be something that carries with you, gives you strength and empowers you. It shouldn't be something that you fear. But sometimes we can't stick to it. I think many times we can't stick to our spending plans. How do we get back on track and not feel despondent?
I think what's important here is that we need to understand that financial management is not easy. And so we learn, we do it, we trip, we fall. I think that the trick here is that don't fall and never want to lift yourself up. When you've made a mistake, recognize it. And you recognize it by continuously checking. And don't be too hard on yourself, but just be mindful that when I go into the next month, I'm not going to repeat that. And that's how we learn, even when children learn how to walk, they fall, they stand up, they never give up. And it should be like that with us, with our spending plans. Don't give up. When you fall, rise up again, dust yourself up, and next month you go for it, and that's how you will be able to sustain and maintain the momentum.
I love that analogy, Wendy, the falling and stumbling. And if you look at your spending plan during the month and you can see where you can course correct, you will be dusting yourself off before you hit the ground, because you would be able to work with it. I absolutely love that. Now, I've heard about this 50, 30, 20 principle in terms of creating your spending plan. What would you say about that?
I love it because what it does, it helps you to put your money into compartments. And it really is, in behavioral science, they call it mental accounting, where you put your money into pockets. And the 50, 30, 20, all it does is to guide you to say, live on 50% of your income. The other 50%, spread it into your investment, into your savings, and into everything else that you want to do. In my book, I use the 70-10-10-10 principle. And 70 plus 10-10-10 is 100%. I encourage people that the first 10% should be what you give. There's a principle, there's a powerful principle there, a principle of reciprocation. When you give, your hand is open for someone to give back. But if your hand is always closed up, then there's no opportunity for anyone to give anything to you. So the first 10% you can use as a tithe, or you can give to the needy, or for us who battle with what they call black tax, you can use that first 10% to help your family. The second 10% you put into what I call active income, where you are actively seeking out investment products where you can put your money in that are aligned to your goals. So probably into a fixed deposit for your emergency funds, etc. The third 10% is the one that you then put into what I call passive income, where you now get the experts to manage that 10% for you. So you invest in things like unit trusts, shares, ETFs, things that you don't have knowledge on, but the experts are able to multiply your money, and then you live on the 70%. But even with the 50-30-20, you can do the same. And that is the best way of managing your income.
Thank you, Wendy, for explaining both those principles. I have appreciation for the 70-10-10-10, and personally, people who know me, I feel that giving is receiving, and that principle is powerful and your biggest multiplier. So if you were to share one tip to our listeners about a spending plan, the one tip that you want them to remember in this PodBLAST, Wendy, as we close off the session, what would that tip be?
It's for them to remember, if your foundations are wrong, everything else that you build will crumble at some stage. So it's important that you hold on to this principle of spending plan writing and making sure that you follow through with it. And that, for me, is the best way of managing your finances, because then you are on your way to financial freedom.
Wendy, thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, and your advice. To our listeners out there, your financial freedom is your ownership. Start today with the spending plan. Talk to us, give us a comment, a like, share the post if you believe that somebody out there needs to hear the wonderful wisdom that Wendy Selebi has given to us today. This is X-Engage PodBLAST, and hope to see you soon again. Thanks for joining us on X-Engage PodBLAST, where we believe every experience counts and small insights spark big shifts. Follow us for more episodes. Tag us with your takeaways and let us keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay human.